A warm and pleasant good morning to everybody. I'm sure you are moving smoothly with your studies. Just a slice of advice from my side to set a plan to study so that you gain maximum benefit out of the online classes. As a goal without a plan is just a wish, and I don't want my students to keep on wishing without a goal. Let us do the recap of what we studied in the last session. What did we study in the last session? We discussed about photosynthesis and structure of stomata. Do you remember the definition of photosynthesis? Or what photosynthesis is? Photosynthesis is the process by which green plants make their food. But how do they make their food? What are the raw materials needed for photosynthesis? The raw materials needed for photosynthesis are energy, water, carbon dioxide, and chlorophyll. Energy is gained from the sunlight, water is sucked up by the roots, and then it is transported to the stem, from the stem to the leaves and to other parts of the plant. Carbon dioxide is taken by the plant from the atmosphere, and the plant contains a pigment called chlorophyll. A commonly used but slightly simplified equation for photosynthesis is 6 CO2 plus 12 H2O plus photons is equal to C6H12O6 plus 6 O2. CO2 means carbon dioxide, H2O means water, photon means light energy. Actually, photon is the smallest discrete amount or quantum of electromagnetic radiation. It is the basic unit of all light, or you can say that light is a flow of photons. C6H12O6 is the formula for glucose, and O2, of course, we know is oxygen. Now, where do the plants prepare their food? Or where is the kitchen of the plant? I'm sure you all know that chloroplast is said to be the kitchen of a plant, because the food of all plants are prepared in their chloroplast. In most plants, photosynthesis occurs primarily in the leaves, in the chloroplast. Do you know the structure of chloroplast? Of course, we have studied it in our previous session. A chloroplast contains stroma, and the second part is grana. Stroma is a fluid, grana are stacks of thylakoids. The thylakoids contain chlorophyll, and of course you all know that chlorophyll is the green pigment that captures light for photosynthesis. We have studied that chloroplast absorbs light energy and converts it into chemical energy. We have studied that photosynthesis is completed in 3 steps. First, absorption of light. Second, conversion of light into chemical energy and splitting up of water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen. It produces ATP and NADPH. These are 2 types of energy carriers. Thirdly, reduction of carbon dioxide by hydrogen to form carbohydrates. ATP generated by the light reactions provide the energy for sugar synthesis, and the NADPH produced by the light reactions provides the electrons for the reduction of carbon dioxide to glucose. We have studied that stoma plays an important role in photosynthesis. It consists of a stomatal apparatus. Here the picture displayed shows you the structure of a stoma in the surface view and in the cross section. These light brown colored cells are the epidermal cells, and these two kidney shaped cells are called as the guard cells. The inner wall of the guard cells is thickened, whereas the outer wall is quite thin. These cells are living, as you can see that they possess nucleus in them, and the opening between these two cells is called as the stoma. You can see dark green spots inside the kidney shaped cells. These are the chloroplast cells. Next we will recap the functioning of stoma. We know that during the daytime the stomata open and during the night they close. This happens because during the daytime photosynthesis takes place, and when water enters the guard cells, they become swollen up and the outer thin walls are pushed outwards. The inner thick walls also bulge outwards and the stomatal pore opens. On the other hand, when water moves out of the guard cells, they become loose and the outer thin walls move towards the pore. The inner thick walls also return to their original position and the stomatal pore closes. Normally, stomata open during the day and close at night. Do you remember the functions of stomata? The main functions of stomata are: they help in the exchange of gases by opening and closing the pores in the leaves. It helps to expel the excess water out from the leaves in the form of water vapor. That means transpiration. Based on the weather conditions, it closes or opens its pores to maintain the moisture balance, allows the uptake of carbon dioxide and to give out oxygen during the process of photosynthesis. Stomata remain open during the day and closed at night. This closure prevents water from escaping through the open pores. We will now perform an activity which is given in your book, activity 3.2, given on page number 39. The aim of the activity is to show that green plants produce oxygen during photosynthesis. Now, the materials that you require for photosynthesis, this experiment is few cuttings of hydrilla, a trough or a beaker. You can take any of these. With test tube, a funnel, a matchbox and water. Now the process, how you'll perform it. Take a trough or a beaker filled with water. It should be filled with water about 3/4 of the beaker or 3/4 of the trough. Second step would be fix the stem of hydrilla into the hole of funnel as it is shown in the picture. Step 3. Now invert the funnel as shown in the figure. Step 4. Fill a test tube with water and cover its mouth with your hand. Step 5. Place it over the stem of the funnel like this. This is the funnel, this is the stem of the funnel, and this is the test tube which has been inverted on top of the stem of the funnel. Step 6. Keep the setup in sunlight for a few hours, say about 4 to 5 hours, and then we will observe certain reactions in it. Observation 1. You will see bubbles of gas collecting in the test tube. This is the setup in which we will observe the bubbles. See, the arrow shows you the bubbles which will ultimately collect here on top of the water level in this empty space. Next, we have to remove the test tube when it has been filled with gas. Remember to immediately close its mouth with your thumb. Now, why do we close its mouth with the thumb? So that the gas which is collected in this space does not come out. Next, bring a glowing splinter or a matchstick near the mouth of the test tube containing gas. What you'll observe next? The matchstick starts burning with a bright flame. You can see here that the matchstick started burning with a bright flame. What inference do we get from this? Or what conclusion do we get from this? We conclude that plants emit oxygen during the process of photosynthesis in presence of sunlight, and also emits carbon dioxide during photosynthesis, process done in the absence of light, that is usually in nights. Now, the focus of our study will be on the factors that affect photosynthesis. There are several factors which affect photosynthesis, and all these factors are interdependent. That means if there is change in any of the factors, the rate of photosynthesis will get affected. The process of photosynthesis depends upon two types of factors, namely external factors and internal factors. External factors are sunlight, temperature, carbon dioxide, water and minerals. Three main things affecting the rate of photosynthesis are light, temperature, carbon dioxide. These three factors are called limiting factors. Now we talk about the internal factors. They are chlorophyll, leaf anatomy, means the structure of the leaf, internal structure of the leaf, accumulation of end products, hormones, riboscope performance, rate of chloroplast electron transport, enzyme activity of Calvin cycle. Now we'll talk about limiting factors. As I spoke earlier, that light, carbon dioxide and temperature are the limiting factors. So what is limiting factor, or what is the law of limiting factors? It says that rate of a physiological process will be limited by the factor which is in shortest supply. Any change in the level of a limiting factor will affect the rate of reaction. That is, the factor which is in its minimum or least concentration or amount would decide the rate of photosynthesis process. Suppose, just to understand this, all the factors which are essential for photosynthesis, like the sunlight, temperature, chlorophyll, carbon dioxide and water. Suppose just to understand, there are 10 units of each of them. Then the rate of photosynthesis is going to be almost steady because everything is available in equal concentration. But suppose water is 2 and this is least in spite of having more carbon dioxide, sufficient chlorophyll and proper intensity of light. But because this fact is essential, the rate of photosynthesis will be decided by this one, because this is one of the raw materials or one of the factors. So according to this law, the factor which is in its least amount or concentration decides the rate of a reaction. In this case, the rate of photosynthesis. That law was given by Blackman, so it is known as Blackman's law of limiting factor. Now let us take the factors. We have already classified them into 2 categories, as external category and internal factors. Let us take all these factors one by one and let us discuss how they affect the rate of photosynthesis. First, in case of external factors, say we start with light. Light is very essential factor, and we know photosynthesis is light dependent reaction. So we'll say that at low light intensities, photosynthesis occurs slowly because a small quantity of ATP and NADPH is created by the light dependent reactions. Secondly, because as more light becomes available, more chlorophyll molecules can absorb light. So more electrons are excited, leading to photolysis and phosphorylation. As light intensity increases, more ATP and ADPH are created, thus increasing the photosynthetic rate. Eventually, a maximum rate is reached, and so increasing light intensity has no effect. So the graph levels off. This can be because all available chlorophyll molecules are absorbing light, so some other factor is now the limiting factor. Very high intensity slows down the rate as it bleaches the chlorophyll. Photosynthesis is maximum in red light, followed by blue light, and is least in green light, because the main pigment, that is chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, are absorbed in blue and red wavelengths of light. High intensity light causes the rate of photosynthesis to increase. The rate will increase until it reaches its saturation point. Saturation means beyond which it will not increase. At the saturation point, the rate of photosynthesis remains constant. Solar radiation is the source of light for photosynthesis. The quality, intensity, and duration of light affect the rate of photosynthesis. Now let's see how. Quality of light. Light between the wavelengths of 400 nm and 700 nm is the most effective for photosynthesis, and this light is called photosynthetically active radiation. It is because the different rays of light are not absorbed equally by the chlorophyll. This I had shown you in the previous session. Next we'll see intensity of light. Under low light intensity, the rate of photosynthesis is low. As the intensity of light increases, the rate of photosynthesis increases. At very high light intensities, the rate of photosynthesis decreases. Now we will see how duration of light affects. The extent of photosynthesis is more when a plant is exposed to long periods of light. Uninterrupted and continuous photosynthesis for relatively long periods of time may be sustained without any visible damage to the plant. Now let us look at this picture. This shows that how light intensity affects the rate of photosynthesis. Now when I am talking about the light intensity, that means light intensity refers to the amount of light of a given wavelength which is available to the plant. Just look at the graph that is displayed here. On the x-axis we have taken light intensity, and on the y-axis is rate of photosynthesis. Now you can see that the graph is in its increasing tendency, and after some times the graph does not increase. It is stationary or steady. This shows that when light intensity is increased, the rate of photosynthesis also increases. Therefore, it is the limiting factor at low levels. But when we see that this is the steady phase, that time we conclude that high levels of light intensity further increases have no effect on the rate of photosynthesis. Therefore, light intensity is not the limiting factor, whereas other factors such as the temperature, carbon dioxide concentration, enzymes or chloroplast working at maximum efficiency are limiting factors. An increase in the concentration of carbon dioxide gives an increase in the rate of photosynthesis. As again you can see here that on the x-axis we have taken carbon dioxide concentration, and on the y-axis the rate of photosynthesis is taken. And the graph shows that as the carbon dioxide concentrate is increasing, so does the rate of photosynthesis. But again a time comes when the rate of photosynthesis levels off. Carbon dioxide compensation point. What do you understand by this? The level at which the oxygen production rate drops to zero is called the compensation point of carbon dioxide. It represents the carbon dioxide concentration at which carbon dioxide consumption in photosynthesis is balanced by carbon dioxide production in photorespiration. Now let's study carbon dioxide saturation point. What is this point? At this point, increases in carbon dioxide concentration do not cause increase in photosynthetic rate. So factors other than the supply of carbon dioxide must be limiting the photosynthetic process. These factors include the supply of light to the leaf, the amount and turnover rate of enzymes involved in the dark reaction of photosynthesis. The graph displayed here clearly shows that as the level of carbon dioxide increases, see, as the level of carbon dioxide increases, the rate of photosynthesis increases and then levels off. Means it becomes steady. There is no change in the rate of photosynthesis. Leveling off represents maximum rate of photosynthesis. Up till here it has reached its maximum. See, this is the leveling off position. So we conclude that the concentration of carbon dioxide in atmosphere varies between 0.03% and 0.04%. Increase in the concentration of carbon dioxide up to 0.05% increases carbon dioxide fixation. The increase in the amount of carbon dioxide increases the photosynthesis. Higher concentrations have an inhibitory effect on photosynthesis. So we have understood that an increase in carbon dioxide concentration causes the rate of photosynthesis to increase. More carbon dioxide available means more sugar being made in the light independent reaction. Now let us see what role water plays in photosynthesis. Water is one of the raw materials for photosynthesis. We already know that. And the amount of water used in photosynthesis is very small. Less than 1% water is absorbed by the plant. A shortage of water can slow or even stop photosynthesis. That means if water is not available, then the rate of photosynthesis will, or the process of photosynthesis will stop. The lack of water not only causes the plant to wilt, but also limits the quantity of photosynthesis. Means lack of water, what role it plays? It causes the plant to wilt, but also limits the quantity of photosynthesis. This happens as when the leaves are dry, they close their stomata in order to conserve water from being lost as water vapor through them. The rate of photosynthesis decreases in the cells which have lost their turgor. The loss of turgor of guard cells closes the stomata. Loss of turgor means when the water comes out of the guard cells and it becomes shrunken. That position is called as loss of turgor. It reduces the rate of photosynthesis. Now we'll see chlorophyll concentration, how it affects photosynthesis. The concentration of chlorophyll affects the rate of reaction as they absorb the light energy needed for the reactions. We know that chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, they absorb the light energy. Lack of chlorophyll or deficiency of chlorophyll results in chlorosis or yellowing of leaves. If there is no chlorophyll or if there is less chlorophyll, then the leaves turn yellow, and this state is called as chlorosis. It can occur due to disease, mineral deficiency, or the natural process of aging, which is called as senescence. Means that the yellowing of leaves can occur due to other reasons also, due to any disease, due to mineral deficiency, or due to the natural process of aging. Lack of iron, magnesium, nitrogen and light affect the formation of chlorophyll and thereby cause chlorosis. You can see how the leaf is turning to yellow. This is mild chlorosis condition and this one is severe chlorosis condition. Different colors of light can affect how much photosynthesis can occur, because only certain colors are absorbed. The more color that is absorbed, the more light that is absorbed, which will lead to more photosynthesis and eventually more ATP. Photosynthesis depends upon the absorption of light by pigments in the leaves of plants. The most important of these is chlorophyll A. Now let's see what role the temperature plays. As temperature increases above freezing point, the rate of photosynthesis also increases. The rate of photosynthesis increases with a rise in temperature over a range from 6 degrees Celsius to about 37 degrees Celsius. Above this temperature, there is an abrupt fall in the rate as the tissues die at 43 degrees Celsius. Enzymes function at optimum temperature. The photosynthetic rate is at its quickest rate at this point. This point means optimum temperature. The optimum temperature for the maximum falls between 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. If the temperature is too high or too low, then the enzymes will not function properly. The rate of photosynthesis will slow down or stop entirely. Above 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, the maximum rate is not maintained as the time factor begins to operate and the optimum temperature is reduced from 37 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. We will now study the xerophytic plants and we will study how transpiration and photosynthesis takes place in them. The picture displayed here is of different types of cacti. You can see they are different in shape as well as they are different in size also. But you can also observe these spiny structures over the body. These spiny structures, see how they are closely arranged. So these spiny structures, what are they? They are the leaves of the plant. The leaves are reduced or they are modified into spine-like structures. Then you see that this green structure which appears to be leafy, but it is actually the stem which is modified into a leaf. Next, we'll see different types of xerophytic plants. As it is shown in the figure, there are different types like Palo Verde, desert ironwood, Joshua tree, pancake, prickly pear cactus. Then many are displayed here like the yucca, mescal, fishhook cactus, hedgehog cactus, etc., etc. They have certain adaptations, means their body has changed into certain characteristics. Stem has thick and waxy coating to prevent loss of water by evaporation. This method is called as transpiration. Stem takes over function of leaves. It becomes green for photosynthesis. the leaves are reduced to spines to prevent loss of water from the surface. The picture displayed here is quite colorful. This picture is of the plants which have colorful leaves in them. Let us see one by one. The first picture is of caladium, which has got colorful leaves. These leaves, because of their various colors, they are also called as the bleeding heart. These leaves are of the croton. This is a money plant. These leaves are of Tradescantia leaves. These leaves are of Diffenbagia. These are of Dracaena. When you keenly observe all 6 of these pictures, you will see that the leaves are containing different colors in them. They are containing white, red, yellow here, red pigment, brown pigments here. This is containing a purple colored pigment. Here this leaf is containing 2 types of pigment, white and green. Green will be chlorophyll, of course. Here it is containing pink, or you can say reddish pink color, and with streaks of green. So what does this show? This shows that all these leaves contain pigments which are of various colors. Because of these pigments, they are also called as variegated leaves. Do you know how does photosynthesis occur in these types of plants? Or does photosynthesis occur or not? We'll study this. Photosynthesis in variegated leaves. In these plants, the amount of red, brown, yellow or other pigments is very high in comparison to the green pigment or the chlorophyll. Therefore, these pigments mask the green color. What is the meaning of mask? Mask means that these pigments are in high concentration, so they cover up the chlorophyll. Photosynthesis takes place only in green parts of these leaves. That means that photosynthesis does not take place in the areas where these colorful pigments are located. In leaves which have white and green parts, in the same leaves, photosynthesis will not take place in the white portion of such leaves. That means photosynthesis will take place only in the green part of the leaf, where it contains chlorophyll. Let us understand the significance of photosynthesis. We'll understand this first by considering the red arrows that are shown. This is the picture of a tree. We know that during the daytime, carbon dioxide is taken from the atmosphere. See, atmospheric carbon dioxide is taken by the plants to prepare their food. They prepare the food for themselves as well as for other organisms also. When other organisms, like the grass-eating organisms, they eat the food provided by the plant, the herbivores, they get the carbon from the food that they eat, as it is the carbon compound or the organic compound. The feces of animals and the bodies after their death and the plant bodies after their death they are decomposed by the microorganisms. During the process of decomposition, carbon dioxide is released. This carbon dioxide mixes into the atmosphere. Animals, they breathe out carbon dioxide, and this also mixes in the atmospheric carbon dioxide. During the day, oxygen is given out by plants as a waste product of photosynthesis. At night, plants use oxygen for respiration. Animals breathe in oxygen. Photosynthesis is useful for synthesis of food. Green plants synthesize their own food by photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the only known method of manufacture of organic food from inorganic raw materials. That means the carbohydrate or the sugar that is produced by plants after photosynthesis is the organic food, and this food is manufactured with the help of inorganic raw materials. That means carbon dioxide and water are inorganic raw materials. Plants are eaten by herbivores, and herbivores are in turn eaten by the carnivores. You can look to this picture and see that plants are eaten up by herbivores and herbivores are eaten by carnivore. For example, plants and plant parts are eaten by deer, and deer in turn is eaten up by lion or tiger. You can see that the grass or plant parts are eaten up by a goat, and this goat is eaten up by a wolf. The grasshopper feeds over the plant parts. It is then fed by the frog, and the frog is ultimately fed by a snake, which is lastly eaten up by an eagle. So this shows that the food that is prepared in the plants is eaten up by the herbivores, and then it is eaten up by carnivores. Animals, including man, are directly or indirectly dependent on the food made by plants. Directly dependent means when we eat plant or plant parts, then we are directly dependent on plants. But when we are non-vegetarian, when we eat the flesh of goat, etc., then we are indirectly feeding upon the plants. Energy obtained from food is used by all organisms for vital metabolic activities. Vital metabolic activities means all the life processes that are taking place inside. Thus, the source of all energy is the sun. Photosynthesis also supplies oxygen. All living organisms require oxygen for survival. That means all living organisms need oxygen to stay alive. The oxygen evolved during photosynthesis is released into the atmosphere. Photosynthesis also helps in purification of air. Green plants take in carbon dioxide during photosynthesis and release oxygen, thereby purifying the air. You can see it here in this picture that animals respire and they give out carbon dioxide, which is emitted and gets mixed into the atmospheric carbon dioxide. The plants also, after respiration, give out carbon dioxide. After the decomposition of the dead bodies of animals and plants, carbon dioxide is released and gets mixed into the atmosphere. The atmospheric carbon dioxide is utilized by the plants to prepare their own food. I'm done with this topic now. In the next session, I'll start with respiration in plants. I have some homework for you. That is, read the lesson twice from page 36 to 42. Learn the definitions of life processes, autotrophs, heterotrophs, stomata, and photosynthesis. So thank you very much. It's bye for now. Stay happy. God bless.